Good morning. This is teaching of the day number 160, and the question I want to ask you today is, how can you be better at breaking large tasks or thoughts or concepts down? And that comes from me working with, I think I've talked about that on here before. I'm working on a curriculum right now, or a game of a concept called conscious decisions, and there's a whole book about it, and there's a whole it's a quite elaborative concept. And what we want to do with that game is to make the player understand and grasp the whole thing on several different levels. And I've been walking around with this kind of, annoyed feeling of not being able to grasp neither the concept nor the how to break it down and how to gamify it and how to make it a curriculum. And so I've just been anxious about the whole thing, really, not being able to move on it at all, which I realize now wasn't even possible, since we didn't have access to the platform on which we're going to have the game on, or create the game in. But I realized yesterday that I haven't been doing what I know that I'm good at, which is breaking things down, and breaking concepts, or especially projects, down into tasks and down into actual tasks that you can move on and take action on. And so that realization brought me to breaking the concept up and breaking the whole curriculum up to different parts, and just dividing it up into pieces, which makes the whole thing a lot easier to move on. Because when you isolate one part and say, I'm going to move on this, you've got maybe a 5% of something instead of the whole thing to grasp and to wrap your head around, or to, you've got something to do, basically. That's what I want to get at. And so I think the whole process of making stuff and making projects possible to move on is really, really important. And the way I do it is just to look at it and see how I can break it down, and to classify the different things and set goals for each and every. So for example, for this curriculum, we have one part of the concept called resources, and on different levels of consciousness, you understand resources in different ways. And so what we're going to do is that we're going to divide the whole game into different, according to the different levels of consciousness, narrating the player through the different levels, so that you start out on the base, and then you move upwards or onwards. And the concept of resources is going to come back on each and every level, but you're going to get a new definition of it, and you're going to get a new understanding of it. So what we did was that we just we set that rule for the whole, or for, not a rule, but rather division up for the whole game, that we're going to divide it up into levels of consciousness, which made it a whole lot easier, because then I can actually start moving on how do we describe resources on this level, and how do we describe resources on the next level, and so on. And yeah, that's, I know that I'm good at it, but sometimes you gotta remind yourself of it, or get reminded of it. So yeah, how can you break something down into smaller pieces, or break something large down into smaller pieces that are possible to grasp?